Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ThetaTalks. My name is Maisha and I am going to be joined by Sanaiyah, and we are going to talk a little bit about how Theta can actually help with many different aspects of life. So today our topic is on anxiety, right? And some of you might think, oh, anxiety, okay, that's a pretty interesting topic, but I never feel anxious. But what is very interesting about anxiety is that you may not recognize anxiety within yourself as something very straightforward, because there is a reference point in your head probably of what anxiety looks like, something like, in a panic mode, and that's what anxiety may look like. And you'll be surprised how anxiety actually shows up and can be hidden underneath some layers, and you may not realize that what you are actually feeling can be labeled or identified as also anxiety. And what's very interesting is with anxiety, it could be certain habits that you are actually doing on a day-to-day basis that could be a cover-up for your anxiety. So this is a very cool topic because you're going to find out and understand a little bit more about yourself and understand how anxiety plays into other people's lives as well, right? So you can not only understand if you're carrying it, but also help others identify.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, let me adjust my, there we go, camera a bit. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I was actually, we had a comment that this is very timely. And I was also feeling actually quite anxious, or am feeling quite anxious because I have so many things that I need to do. And it's like October and it's nearly the end of the year. And this is where it's like, so it's good to explore and give a little bit insight. I mean, in my perspective, the anxiety is very seen because it seems like so many things to do on my list and have to get through them. So that's how anxiety is kind of surfacing for me. But I was just talking to the audience about how, maybe you may not recognize anxiety as straightforward as it is for myself. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I had a client today who I haven't seen after a very long time. And when I scanned her, the first thing I saw was she was really like scared, you
Okay.
know, scared. And she was like, I think the word was scared is what I saw, scared and a little like, I guess it's anxious because when I told her this, I'm like, is there any reason you should be feeling this? And she took a moment and she was like, hmm. And then she's like, actually, I was feeling very anxious before our call.
Mm,
And, I was kind of little uncomfortable. I didn't know what was going to come up in today's session. And I kept asking, what should I work on today? She's like someone who's, worked with me before and was coming back to see me after a while. But anyways, it was like the first thing I noticed was anxiousness. And this
mm.
is true, right, of a lot of our clients and students that right before they go in for a healing, sometimes there's a sense of anxiety or
Yeah, yeah.
discomfort. So that kind of I wanted to share that story because anxiety is your body not feeling at ease, right?
Mm.
And it is feeling either out of control or uncertain
And unsafe. Yeah,
or
absolutely.
unsafe. So
Mm,
I want
mm,
to say it's really uncertain, unsafe,
mm.
or what was the other one I was saying? Uncertain, unsafe, uncomfortable,
Uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah.
uncomfortable, not at ease,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know? And so really the best way to deal with that is to call it out.
Mm.
Figure out what it is that you're uncertain, uncomfortable, or unsafe about, and just call it out.
And
And
I
that's what we
think
did.
I think what makes it a little bit more tricky
Hmm.
is that, you know, for people who feel anxious, a lot of it starts here, right? It's they're in their heads a lot of the time, and they don't realize how much is really going on in there. And then their body starts bubbling and starts kind of bringing up the anxiety, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, overthinking is also anxiety,
Yeah.
right? Just, you're just
Stuck in a
running,
loop.
yeah, stuck in the loop.
Okay, now let me ask you something, Maisha. Since you're
Yeah.
talking about being stuck in a loop, overthinking, what is the difference for you between worry
Hmm.
and anxiety?
Oh, so when I think of worry, it's potentially that there is something that I'm worried about. Anxiety is it's like I don't really know this particular event for me that I'm anxious, I'm worried about. It's like anxiety, right? It
So,
feels more everywhere versus I'm worried about something.
so worry has a source
Yeah.
or a cause
Mm.
or an object of your worry, right? Like either
Correct.
you're worried about someone or you're
Yeah.
worried about something,
Thing.
right?
Yeah.
So you have these like specific people or situations.
Yeah.
Anxiety is just a level of discomfort and feeling out of control and panic, and it doesn't necessarily have a source.
Yes.
But then in my head,
Hmm.
it's just that we know what we're worried about, but
Hmm.
constant worrying over time becomes
Is
anxiety,
anxiety.
which
Yeah.
is your normal state of constantly being in a state of stress
Worry.
or worry,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And the work I've done with clients has shown me that anxiety always has also a source or a person, like a cause,
Yeah.
a reason. It's never just a random, right? Yes, your body has now become trained to live in that constant state, right?
Hmm.
Of anxiety. But digging down, like healing that for us as theta healers is about figuring out where did that come from, right? Where
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
that anxiety
Absolutely.
actually stem from? And once we discover what that is, we can actually do something about it, like release it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
And
cool because this week on Project Loving Myself, is it this week? It is this week on Project Loving Myself. I'm dropping an episode called The Worry Trap.
okay.
And we're laughing, you guys, because we don't plan our topics. As in, maybe Maisha knows what the topic is for Theta Talks every week, but a lot of times I have no clue what the Theta Talks topic is. And my
Mm.
podcast episode drops on a Wednesday, which is tomorrow.
Mm.
So we don't know what we're doing, like, as in
It's
it's literally,
literally like
we don't know
yesterday.
what
Yeah.
each other is doing, not we don't know
Yeah.
what we're doing. We don't
Yeah.
know what each other is doing,
Uh,
on the podcast or on Theta Talks. And once again, as this has happened a number of times before, we're kind of talking about the same thing
yes.
without intending to do so, because worry and anxiety to me are pretty much very similar things.
Similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you know, when I started, there is the aspect of, like you said, getting to the root. And you mentioned it earlier, a lot of it goes back to the feeling of not feeling safe, right? And what ends up happening is if you have that source or that feeling, then you end up trying to find a solution, right? Without realizing it, which is your habits are created, right? Like
explain that.
like for instance, if I don't feel safe, how do I make myself feel safe? I need to make sure that everything is in order. So I'm going to control everything,
Perfectionism. Could be
control the
perfectionism,
environment,
control.
right?
Yeah.
So that I don't have to feel unsafe. Now, in order for me to control the environment, not everything I can control, right? Right. So some of it, that's where the anxiety brews with the fact that I cannot control everything, or even in that idea of controlling everything, not everything goes according to plan,
Right.
right? But subconsciously, that need to control could also be coming from the place of lack of safety, and hence that need to control can be an anxiety, right? Um, and then
Absolutely.
and for instance, the anxiety can be coming from, like I mentioned, overthinking, right? If I want to get, like you mentioned, perfectionist, everything right, I
Mm.
have to make sure, and hence I need to overthink and overplan and plan A, plan B, and this becomes anxiety. And what was very interesting is because, I'm very passionate about uh biohacking, longevity and stuff, right? So, and when ashwagandha, rhodiola starts coming in terms of the supplements, and the idea is you may not know what you're feeling anxious about, but you could be feeling anxious, right? And these supplements help calm you down, right? So that is also a very interesting aspect, that sometimes your mind can be running and you're anxious, but you don't realize that that's what you're feeling, right? So that's also something that is really important to understand, that even though you're not feeling, oh my God, anxious, anxious, anxious physically that way, but it could be the anxiety, which is you in your head, right?
Well, there's a book, right? I'm sure a lot of our listeners may have heard of this. You've probably heard of this, Maish. It's called The Anxiety Generation. And
The anxious,
the
anxious
anxious,
generation.
sorry,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
anxious generation. It was on New York Times
yeah,
bestseller list. It's like a major kind of wake up call for a lot of parents
yeah.
because, without going too much into the book, basically the idea is that because of all the things that are happening in our generation right now, with AI and
Social
gadgets and
media.
social
Yeah,
media
yeah, yeah,
algorithms, all of this stuff, our children will be the most anxious generation yet.
yeah.
And it is going to be like kind of like what you're explaining, where, we are seeing, by the way, more and more children who
Mm,
are aware or starting to become aware that they have anxiety. We are also
yes.
seeing children who have no idea they're anxious, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it has to do with our brains' neurobiology
Mm,
has been now hijacked
yes.
by, excessive dopamine hits.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically our hormones are all out of whack because of, all the gadgets. You see these kids are on the LED lights, throwing
Mm,
off their hormones, constantly, like all this gamification and all this, like, what the work of the algorithms is causing our children's brains to actually change.
yeah.
Neurologically it is
Mm-hmm.
changing, biologically it's changing, and so the truth is that it's not just daily stresses of life, but it's also, technology in this day and
Yeah.
age has warped our ability to stay focused, to know when to rest, to know when to relax. And mainly what's happening with a lot of us, children and adults, is we don't know how to switch off,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
our brain actually thinks it is daytime for so much longer than it is because of the
Mm,
LED lights, right?
right.
And then on top of that, we're stimulating our brain so much that now we can't like rest and relax and come back to some kind of default setting, because our default setting is now this heightened sense of like tension and stress and alert, whether that's in life, like from our real life, or from the screens and the TV and the TV shows and like everything we're seeing
Yeah.
in the digital world also makes us feel stressed and not at ease. You know
But
what I mean?
even like sleep patterns, right? You're
Yeah,
talking about,
yeah.
then you end up sleeping later, then you don't catch that really deep sleep, the REM sleep timings, right? And then your body doesn't rest properly, and then you wake up, and I know a lot of people wake up tired, right? And that is also potentially a result of this anxiety that's going on that's not processed because
Their body's not resting.
you're not resting, you
And
know?
it's
So
so interesting
fatigue
you said that.
and waking up tired is also could be
A real thing.
an indicator, you know?
Yeah, it's a real thing. And you and I both wear aura rings, right? And I'm sure
Yeah.
you notice as much as I do is like obviously coffee disrupts your
Mm,
sleep pattern. Alcohol disrupts your sleep. Like it's a real thing. We're actually looking at
yes.
our sleep patterns being completely disrupted by even just one glass of wine can throw
Yeah.
off my sleep for the whole night. So to me, it's like, wow, all these little things make such a big difference. And I've also noticed that if I am on a screen at night for too long, I don't sleep well either. And I know
Yeah.
that intellectually,
Yeah.
but to see it on my aura ring is just like, oh my God, it is real. This
Really
is not just
true.
like what they say. This
Mm,
is true. Like all of
yeah,
these
yeah.
things are disrupting not only our sleep, but our brain chemistry, our neurobiology. Like all of this stuff is getting affected. And then
Yeah.
you add into that our inability to cope with stress, with stressful situations. We avoid it, we kind of like hide from it, and that becomes the anxiety.
Numb yourself,
We
right?
numb or distract.
That's the you numb the stress, it's like your body or you go into shutdown,
Yeah,
right? So what happens is you are so anxious and all of a sudden you go into shutdown and you become kind of numb to your emotions, right?
yeah.
And
You
and
can't
that's
cope. You can't cope.
also, yeah, that's also something that happens when you're anxious, but you don't realize that you numbing yourself or shutting down could actually be because of that anxiety that you are feeling,
Yeah.
right? Or even like needing to be busy all the time, right? That's also a source of, or it could be anxiety that's fueling that, right? I have to constantly be doing something, doing something, doing something, and when I ask my clients, okay, what if you just took, slow down a bit, or what if you took some time to rest, right?
Yeah.
Then what, right? It's like they've sort of gone into this whole momentum of needing to constantly do something because it's a distraction from what's really going on, right? And that's causing anxiety. So
Okay, let's
that's
talk
also,
about let's talk about solutions.
yeah.
Okay. So one of the most amazing things that I saw with my husband is he used to wake up reaching for his phone,
Mm,
right? And then work messages, all his little like chats on his company chats, and you could see that from the moment he opens his eyes, it doesn't stop,
yeah.
all the way till he comes home at the end of the day. But the mornings I could see like it would already start. Now he decided to not reach for his phone.
Mm,
Okay. And he started to go outside to the balcony, and he would sit there with his coffee. Then now it's
excuse
creatine,
me. Yeah.
creatine before it was
Mm,
coffee. And he
mm.
just sits there. He plays like meditation music,
Okay, nice.
like he'll just like Google, turn on, whatever, and he'll play meditation music. And then he will just give himself some space in the morning
Mm,
before even getting on the phone.
yeah.
And what a world of a difference. Because he not only shared this with me, but we could see it became so much calmer. And when we
Mm,
talked about this, because I was telling him about my episode, and I actually used his example in my episode, is he said that when he started to give himself that extra space in the morning, just to kind of like be in the sunlight, right?
mm,
Have a cup of coffee or whatever he was having, a supplement in the morning with like quiet and peace, or like calming music, things that just gave him space and positive energy and wasn't like stressful, right? It's like he noticed that the rest of his day would be calmer. The rest of
right.
his day would be less stressful. He would
Mm,
respond rather than reacting to situation in his life. So just starting the day differently helped him to kind of calm his whole like nervous system, because he has a
Yeah.
tendency to also get triggered or like get anxious about things. And that honestly totally changed the game for him.
I have another tip. So my husband, I'm whenever I hit the bed and I'm like, I'm gonna sleep, I'm out. And in the next 5, 7 minutes, I'm very blessed. I'm knocked out, right? But for him, he takes time to sleep. So, like you said, you have meditation music. We also have frequency that he listens to, which also works with the subconscious mind and calms his psyche to be able to sleep well, because for him he is his work, like it's
Overthinker.
constantly in his
Yeah.
head, so that's what he uses to unwind as well. But even tips such as dimming the lights right early, like post by 6:37 in your room, instead of having all the lights on, just dimming the light is a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, we dim the lights after like 6 p.m. We start dimming the lights, and then
Yeah,
by 8 or 9 p.m. we only have like our like slight lights on, like wall lamps, or like
yeah.
the rest of the room goes quiet. Sometimes we used to put like aromatherapy, lavender. We've
Oh,
done
nice.
that,
Yeah.
or gentle music. But yeah, we just kind of keep it really calm and really
Hmm.
quiet. But
Yeah.
another thing that really helps me, and of course, if you're a healer or theta healer, it's a great one to do, is I like to go to bed at night and do healing sessions on myself.
Mm.
The only thing is, like, if you're lying down and you're doing theta healing, for example, it's a sleep wave, right? So the tendency is to go to sleep.
Fall asleep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so to fall asleep before you finish the healing. So, there are times where I can't fall asleep, then I will go into theta and just work on myself.
Yeah.
And that usually will get me to sleep as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where I intentionally really just want to work on stuff. And then
Yeah.
after I'm done healing, I fall asleep in a really comfortable way. So how you go to sleep also makes a difference. Like
Yeah.
if you go to sleep in the middle of like blaring TV, noise, stress around you, the lights are on, then that is definitely going to disrupt your sleep.
And that is I mean, exactly about the nervous system, right? You're um of course confusing it and putting in so much um music, and the flashing of the TV, you're really, it's affecting your nervous system.
You're waking it up instead of
Yeah.
putting it to sleep.
Yeah. And a lot of it goes back to, our ability to understand that if our nervous system is out of whack, right, or too stimulated, then your body also goes into protection, or fight mode, or
Fight or flight, survival
fight
mode.
or
Yeah.
flight mode, right? So again, then you don't feel safe, right? So another important area, going back to, I know this is, we discussed this a few times already, is really safety, and that feeling of safety is very, very important, right? And some of it may be something you picked up during childhood, or something that you've inherited from your parents or your ancestors. Maybe like you lived in an environment which is very chaotic, or what has been very chaotic, or you've been criticized a lot, right? So you are constantly on fight or flight, and hence you're not able to relax and calm down. So in terms
Your body,
of,
let me add, like your body feels like it's under attack and it needs
yeah,
to be like on alert. And that is
yeah.
the constant anxiety in the background. You're trying to protect against something bad happening.
Right. And so working on that and understanding, understanding where that is coming from, whether it was your childhood, whether it's something that you saw in your household, whether you saw that's how your parents reacted, is also something that is good to look at, to get to a place where you actually have a choice.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times we think we don't have choices in our lives, right? We think that we've inherited it, we kept it, and now that's it. We have no choice. But also reminding yourself that you do actually have a choice. You don't have to
Absolutely.
live the way they did. You don't have to live in that environment that you did live as a kid. You know, you're not there anymore, right? You don't have to. And sometimes what happens is we don't realize that that happened 15 years ago, but we're still living it, right? Because your mind cannot tell the difference. It's like stuck in this loop. So working on your points of origin and where it's coming from is also very important because that allows you to sustain and maintain that feeling of calm and peace.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, what you're saying in a nutshell is like there is anxiety that comes, occasionally, or when there's a stressful time in your life, or something that can be managed or handled with better lifestyle choices. And then
Yes.
there's the other kind of anxiety that's constant or shows up frequently in your life.
Mm,
And in those cases, like something like adjusting your lifestyle can help a little bit, but
won't sustain.
it
Yeah.
won't clean it up. It won't get rid
Mm,
of that anxiety that's always there.
yeah.
I've seen like meditation and yoga can be very helpful, but it's a very long process. You have to
Mm,
consistently do it for a very long time to actually feel the effects on your anxiety levels, and it will
yeah.
come down over time, but it will take time. On the other hand, like what I've seen with anxiety is, this is one of those things that Theta Healing does really, really well, is working with mental health stuff like
Yeah.
anxiety and, you know, um, stress and things like emotional, you know, roller coaster types of situations. And
And when we talk about anxiety, we're talking about in general, but then you can go into more like people who do have neurodivergence, right? Or, they handle it differently as well, right?
yeah, neurodivergent.
So
Yeah.
so it's also very important to understand yourself and how you process things because then it'll give you a better insight on to what you can do to
Yeah.
help yourself. Some people don't realize that that anxiety could lead to, like I mentioned, numbing or burnout or things like that,
Addiction
which
too,
or even addiction. Yeah, absolutely.
right?
You
Because that's how
know?
you distract yourself. And addiction could be like all kinds of addictions, like,
Hmm.
smoking, alcohol, porn. It could be addiction to social media, any kind of addiction to distract you. By the way,
Yeah.
Maish, for you, your for the last like 10 minutes have been kind of not coming through clearly on the screen.
Oh,
Am I okay for you?
yeah, yeah, you're okay and I'm okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's been like pixelated for a while. But in any case, we are at the top of the hour. So this might be a good time for us to pull a virtue card.
Yay. Hey, oops.
You
These
dropped
cards.
something
No,
jumped
they
out.
are up. Okay. No, one was just up. Okay. Let's do this. What do you have for us, creator? Justice.
Justice. That's an interesting one.
So let's read what Vienna says about justice.
That's
That will give
interesting.
us more insight. Hey,
Huh.
so the virtue of justice. There is no true justice without wisdom, truth, and understanding. Justice is a law that can be called in, but beware. To call forth justice will also bring karma, and this doesn't always mean things will turn out the way you expect. If justice is in your cards, you are in alignment with good karma, which works with the law of cause and effect, and you have done many great deeds, and the universe acknowledges this because the scales of justice are balanced right. You may be rewarded with the respect of those around you, and you will find peace from old regrets and rejections. Legal battles may lean in your favor. So I think justice is really that message. Maybe somebody needed to receive that message.
Yeah, because this
Oh,
one doesn't
justice. Yeah.
not coming to me as usually something drops in for me, but justice
Yeah.
is a very interesting one.
Yes. Well, I mean, well, talking about
Hmm.
being yeah, even I'm a bit stumped. Should I pull another one?
Yeah, let's pull another one. Maybe it will make sense together.
Okay. Modesty.
Wow, what are these messages today?
I know.
Modesty and
It
justice.
does. Yeah. Modesty. Hmm.
What are we getting for today? What is the message?
Modesty. If modesty is in your card, you are presenting yourself to the world in the proper way. You have allowed yourself to present your body and thoughts with respect and self-love. There we go. The knowledge you have received from life experiences are interacting in the highest way, and this ensures success in all areas of your life with peaceful knowingness.
Okay, here's what's coming. Practice modesty with yourself by limiting your anxious thoughts because it's about like self-love and self-respect, right? So the only person you're hurting with your anxiety or anxious thoughts is yourself.
Hmm.
And it's this is kind of what I mean, it's a bit vague for me, but this is what I'm getting. And it's kind of like like the message is about, like practicing modesty with yourself, like
Hmm.
controlling where your thoughts are going. Don't like air your dirty laundry, or like don't like, you know, like don't just put it all out there, but be modest in what anxious thoughts you're allowing yourself to feel and experience, and try to like reel that in. And if not, then you get what you deserve, kind of thing. If you're going to think about the thoughts that you
Which
are,
is justice.
right?
Yeah.
Like if you're always going
Hmm.
to be anxious about the negative thing, or just feeling constantly uncomfortable and so on, then that is the experience of life you get. And
Hmm.
often you attract to yourself more, of that same type of experience. So it's justice, right? But if you can snap out of that, I know it's not as simple as snapping out of it, but even choosing to do something about your anxiety or your anxious thoughts, then now you're starting to kind of tip the balance, the
Yeah.
scales more in your favor, and kind of create a very different type of life experience for yourself. That's just what
Wow, I love
threads
it.
together.
You did good. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy with what you've mentioned. Now, I know Queen mentioned or had a comment. I read somewhere that people who don't confront or face the anxiety often manifest in different ways. For example, they may be more likely to be reckless or hypersexual. Is that true? I've noticed that in some people I know.
That is very true, that Queen, that when we don't deal with our stuff, and it's not just the anxiety, it could be our baggage, it could be our fears, it could be our insecurities. When we don't deal with our stuff, okay, then it will spill out and often get expressed in very unhealthy behaviors. Um, it could be unhealthy coping behaviors, it could be addictive behaviors, it could be
Filling
personality
voids. Yeah,
traits,
yeah,
so it basically it shows up because energy has to go somewhere. So all that, negative energy manifests or gets expressed in your life in these other different behaviors.
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So have a lovely evening.
You too.
I
Welcome
shall,
back.
and thank you guys. for joining. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today.
Bye,
See you
guys.
soon. Bye.
Catch us next week, Tuesday. Oh, what about are you offering your emotional breakthrough? You forgot that one.
Oh, yes, of course. If you want to
Inviting?
clear your anxiety and understand why you are anxious, please connect with me.
I don't think you can clear their anxiety in 20 minutes, Maisha. I mean, you're really good, but that might be a little too much to
Aware.
promise. If you want to be aware of what might be causing it, where it's coming from,
And then we can
I think
clear
that,
it.
yeah, that
Yeah.
I think you can easily address
Yes.
um, in one of your emotional breakthrough sessions. So that would be really cool to do. All right, you
Awesome.
guys, so much love. Have a great evening. Bye bye.
Bye.